Hello friends, my name is Jérôme Laban. I'm the CTO of the Uno platform open source project. I spend about an hour every Tuesday looking at issues and answering questions and looking at what the news are about the .NET platform in general, but also about what we're doing in Uno. So if you're online currently, just drop me a note, say hi, and we can discuss about everything Uno. So in general, what I do during those streams is I take a look at what we've been doing and taking a look at specific issues that have been opened by customers or users directly on the Uno platform GitHub repo. And today I'm going to be looking at one specific issue that's related to memory leaks using frame navigation in WPF. So it's not WPF exactly, it's the support for Skia, a WPF, so we're probably going to be renaming that afterwards. But the idea is that that issue was opened and navigating one between two pages leaks for some reason when that specific kind of pattern has been used in the application. So the person that has opened the issue was kind enough to have created a repro for this, so it will be easier to get to the point and see where we are actually leaking content. So let's try first to see if the repro project actually does work and actually repros the issue. So we're going to be taking a look specifically at the WPF host. So with your Uno applications, you can see here, so this one has been created using Visual Studio 2022. And you can see here that it's actually running the very new preview 5 that's been released today. So there may be dragons. We'll see where that goes. There may be issues with that newest preview, so we'll see and have something to report if something comes up. So let's go and build the WPF host. So that one is a Skia-based version of Uno, but it runs on top of WPF. So we're using WPF to draw to host the application, and everything that's underneath is being run using Skia. Okay, so let me see if we actually do have something that doesn't work. So it looks like there's already our first .NET Preview 5 issue. So that one would be, could not find part of the path, memory leak. Okay, that's pretty new. So that looks like the issues that I think they tried to fix that one. But there was an issue somewhere. Okay, so this is a rosin issue where a editor config file is not generated. Okay, so let's fall back at this one for now. It's going to be a reported issue for now. So what we can do is disable the Roslyn used for source generation. And one that you can find is we're doing this for some of the projects when running inside of Visual Studio. We have something where we disable Roslyn's usage of source generators inside of Uno. And we're going to drop this here to disable that for now. We're also going to try quickly to see if there's something else that does break. Okay, so it still is doing it. So let's see if there's another. Let's see if it with GTK does the same thing. Because I could, okay, so it's not building, but only for WPF. Okay, so let's do this for now. It doesn't matter that much if it's a WPF version of it or if it's a GTK version of it. So for now, we're just gonna go and use that one instead. Okay, so let's see if we can repro this. So the good part, so let's see if the app runs for starters. Okay, so we're navigating to page 2. Page 1, page 2, page 1 to main. Okay, so we're navigating to all the pages here, and we're going to see if we can repro this. So what we can do is use the performance profiler from Visual Studio because it's a .NET app. So that means that all the support that we can get for performance profiling and memory profiling and all of that is available as part of Visual Studio. It's nothing specific for Uno. So that's the good news. when you get into using Uno. And now we're gonna take a snapshot at the beginning, and then we're gonna do comparison. So we're gonna make a comparison of the heap in between navigation. So navigating a few times, page 2, page 1 to main. Not exactly sure which one should be having that issue, but let's navigate quite a few times and we'll see if we get to the issue. Okay, so now we can take a snapshot and we're going to compare. So we can already see that the memory is moving up as we use the app. So that's not good. So we're going to be able to see if we can find things in between versions and see what's leaking. Okay, so we can see that the memory grew up in between this snapshot and this snapshot by 7 megabytes, which is quite a lot. So we're going to see the difference there. So I think, so this is a new UI. I don't know how it works. So we're going to discover this. I'm going to discover this as at the same time as you are. So this is just my code. Probably just remove that one as well, because just my code is generally not that useful. And then we're going to try to find what leaks. Okay, so we can see there's quite a few things that are leaking with dependency property details. So that is generally because top level objects are leaking. We can see manage handles as well, not particularly useful. We can see that we're leaking grids. And in general, what I do when we try to troubleshoot that kind of issue is to try and take a look at top level objects that may leak. So in this case, let's try to see if let's say page 1, 2, or 3, or main page. Actually, page 3 doesn't exist, but let's say page 1 is there always because we're never going out of this one. So it would be page 1 or 2. So we see that page 1 has a page 1 view model. Let's see for page 2. Page 2 has a page 2 view model as well. So we're going to see which one leaks. Maybe it's page 2 view model, or maybe it's page 1 view model. So we're going to try to figure that one out. Okay, so let's search for page 1, for instance. Do we have page 1 instances? Okay, so we have only 3 page 1 instances, but we have 11 instances of page 1 view model. So we can see that that view model is leaking. So that's the first problem. Now let's see, do we have page 2? We also have page 2, we have less of them, but same thing. So probably navigated to 7 times to that page. Probably, we could probably add a counter to make sure that it's actually the case, but it looks there that we had 7 instances that are leaking. Okay, so let's go back to the page 1 and see if we can drill into what's causing this to leak. So there we can see a few things. We can see that we're leaking through dependency property details and the dependency property details collection and the store and a few additional things below. What do we have there? So that page is leaking with dependency property collection. So it's pretty much the same one. So I would guess that because we have inherited property change callback disposable here, I would guess that the leak comes from this one. And that could be because we're not unhooking from the view model, maybe. So that could be something. So we're going to try a few things. So let's take a look at what the page is doing. So we're just having a view model and a data context here. Same thing from here. We're not doing any data binding of any kind. So that means that we're not hooking onto the data context that may be Let me be forcing the instance of the view model to stay active. So same thing here, and page 3 we don't go there, so there's no problem there. So maybe in the C#, so there's just a go back, so it doesn't change. Same here. Okay, so we don't have anything else. So that would mean that for some reason we're hooking onto changes from the view model in locations where it shouldn't happen. So let's see. So one of the other things that we can do is try to write it differently. So let's say instead of doing it in code behind, do it differently. So let's say, so there's one other thing is there's the next name. So that could also make the view model leak a bit. So let's see. Let's remove this for now. Let's remove the X name and see if that changes something. So of course the Jack session, we can say the Jack session, so it gives us a bit of information afterwards. Okay, so that's the first one. So we're gonna try again to profile. So we have the relaunch profile. So we're gonna profile again and see how far we need to go. So one, just going to do that multiple times so that we have, we may automate this if it gets too annoying. Okay. Oh, I forgot to take the snapshots. Maybe I don't know if you're going to see this, but let's see. So if I stop the app, let's take a look at the snapshot and see if we still have active instances of page 1 view model. Okay, so we still do have page 1 view model active. So it's not the X name. So it's not the X name that's doing this. And okay, so that's not so it's still happening in the same way. We can see here that there's a page 1 that's hooking under the store. So it really looks like there's a page 1 there. So obviously the whole day, no one was doing any noise outside, and now there's someone doing some noise outside. So I need to close the window a bit so you don't get bothered by the noise of someone just sawing something just just when I'm doing the stream. Okay, so so we can see here that it's still stored somewhere in there, so it's not good enough. Okay, so it's not helping here. So now let's see if we do it differently. So let's say we take the page 1 view model here. Instead of creating it in the code behind, we move it here like this. So we're going to do it this way here. That's the page 2 view model. I'm going to comment this one out. So we only use the one from the code behind. Okay. So let's do this again and see if that changes the performance characteristics. Page 1. Okay, so well, I'm going to take a snapshot and see if the memory moves up. Page 2. Okay. But it still moves up because we can see. So there's probably still a bug that's lingering here. And let's search for page 1 still. See if we can find something. Oh, that's different. That's way different. Okay, still moves up, but not for the same reasons. Okay, so that means that setting the data context from the code behind somehow has an impact or setting it from the XAML has an impact when compared to doing it from the view model. So we're gonna be doing some differences there. So that means that the garbage collector is doing its work, so that's good. But that's a big difference from what we saw here, where we had movement up. Snapshot 2. Yeah. Okay. I'm a bit lost with that one because they changed the handling of the navigation. So they opened a new window for the managed memory from the original one. But anyways, so that one was just done 2 minutes ago. So that's the one. That's the good one. Okay, so that means that when we have page 1, we can see here that page 1, there's only one instance of page 1, which is good. So that means it's not leaking anymore. So now we're going to have to find what's different when we're doing it from the code behind versus from the XAML. So let's restore this, and we're going to go take a look at the generated XAML to see if there's something significantly different that we're doing, because it's supposed to be the same. It is supposed to. So now could very well happen that we're doing something different. So let's go fish for information. So we just rebuilt. So now we're going to take a look at the analyzer node, and then we can find the generated files here. So when we have a XAML file that's generated, the XAML file in the application, then we have also the generated source files that are from the XAML to C#, and that gets compiled to in the final assembly. Okay, so now we have that one. So we have to find the data context assignation, assignation that we have. Data context. So we're doing it here. So that's interesting because we're doing the same thing. We're doing the exact same thing here. So the page should behave exactly the same way. So if it does not, that means that there may be issues with the way we're doing things here with the delegates, maybe. So we're generating code like this with methods like that we can nest, and there may be something different there. Okay, so let's try again, because I'm starting to doubt what we actually saw. So let's do it again, but with the page 1 view model again, and see if actually did and observed the right thing. So let's take a snapshot and let's navigate a bit. Okay. Forgot to take a snapshot. Have to do it again. Okay, so but no, I don't think we're going to be able to see it. So let's do it again. Snapshot first, then let's do some navigation. Damn it, I did it again. Forgot to save. So what I'm going to do, because it's annoying to do, maybe no, let's try it again. There's a way to automate this, but yeah, that's the annoying part of doing automated things like that. Not automating things like this, it's error prone. Okay, and snapshot again, close the app, and then we're going to take a look at the page instances and see if we do have the same thing. So that's the second heap diff, the second heap capture. And page 1. Yeah, page 1 is leaking. So it happens, it really happens. So there's definitely something that we're doing when writing it from the code, from the, when it's written that way. But it should not. So that's pretty interesting. So there's nothing else that changes. It's supposed to be done that way. So are we executing the right thing? Maybe not. So let's take a look here. Are we going through, we're supposed to be going through the initialization here. Going to page 1, so that works. So there's no problem here. So we're really going through the page 1 initialization. So we're gonna go take a good look again at the page 1. I'm gonna try to dig into, oh, that is new. That is new. That is very new. So they changed the way in Visual Studio 2022 Preview 5. Now you can go into, the generated code and step into the generated code, because previously you weren't able to do that. So that means that all files that were there were not available. And you can go through it. So we had to roll back to the previous version of the Uno generators, which were allowing for files to be debugged, and that's not something that we need there. So that's pretty cool. And that's got to be preview 5. Hi, Kirill. Uno platform live coding is all about coding the Uno platform. So you can take a look at the previous videos that I made. That should be available either on Twitch, on YouTube, and you should be able to determine what that is. And it's every Tuesday. So give me a subscribe if you want to follow on what we've been doing. Okay, so if I go to the data context initialization, oh, that's interesting. So it's skipped over. Okay, so it's initialized here. So the page 1 view model is here. So the interesting thing is that when we're doing that kind of things, oh, there's something, that's actually something new here. So if you take a look here in the solution, so that's another something that was added to Visual Studio 2022. There's the external sources, external sources node that's happening there. And the good part is that you can go inside and find the sources that are, let's say if I dive into data context here, I can go and see what's inside. So when the assignation for the data context is done, but you can, instead of having to open files that are coming from another project, you can just piggyback into all those files and make it work really easily. So that's pretty nice. That's new to 2022. So let's see if I dive into data context. No, it doesn't. Okay, so maybe it's something. That one's supposed to be working. So maybe there's something that's not there. If I go to the debugger, do I have just my code's disabled? Okay, so maybe there's something else, because data context on that one should be available when I dive into it. Let's try it again. Nope, this one doesn't work, because it's supposed to be, maybe it's because it's a generated file. Oh, then all the generated files are there. So that one is probably a framework element somewhere. Framework element, is it here? No, it's not here. Well, that's all the theme resources, so it's not that one. looks like it's missing some files. There should be new files here. Oh well, okay, so that's something that we can take a look at some point to understand why the generated files are not available in that list, because framework elements should be here, or UI element for that matter. Maybe it's UI element. No, it's not here. So maybe it's not loaded properly. It's probably the reason why it doesn't get into the debugger. Okay, so that's not enough. So that means that it could be that block that I'm executing here that's maybe doing something that's not supposed to happen here. So component 1 is, it's component 1. Component 1, component 0, sorry, component 0. So components are pieces that we add into the generated code to be able to get references to objects. So let's say if you're doing XBinds and things like that, we use this to be able to do update resources, update XBinds and things like that. And they're basically, every time you do an XBind, there's a component that's added there. When you use static resources, also we're going to generate stuff like this for late binding. But I can see that there's a top level dictionary. So what's that one? So there's an X name somewhere that causes page 1 to have a component there. Oh, that's the background. Okay, so that's not a big deal. So when I said there's a component generated, so the reason why there's a component is because of that one. We need to execute something once the XAML is loaded, so we generate a component there. So that's pretty interesting. So when we have this block, which generates, well, I don't have it anymore. Which generates, we're going to take that one, which generates something that looks like this, then it fails. So let's do it again. We're going to take this and we're going to put it in the code behind instead of doing it this way. Maybe there's some other leak that we don't see because of the way C# code is generated or something like that. Okay, so this apply cannot work because it generates something below, I would guess. Let's see. No. Okay, so maybe we can do something else afterwards. So probably just something with generation. Ah, it's because it's in X6. Okay, let's go here for that one. Is it behaving better? No, not that much. Maybe a bit after a compilation, we'll see. Okay. So in page 1, we need to remove this. Same thing for page 2. Actually, let's keep page 2 for the differences. So now the difference between what we did before is the fact that instead of doing it from the XAML, we're taking it from the data context as a single line here to be something that we're generating with the source generators there. So I just took the code from one to put it there instead. And it's not page 1, it's page 2 is page 1. Okay, so that would be good. So now let's launch the profiler again and see if there's a difference. It looks like the build failed. The build failed because there's no apply, there's no definition for apply. It looks like I missed something here. Probably generating something below. Generating an apply block that I'm missing here. Button grid instance. No, not that one. So I would assume that it's something that's coming from Uno something. Uno extensions for now. For some reason the IntelliSense is completely broken. I wonder if it's something new to preview 5. We'll see. Okay, so that works. Okay. Something that is interesting, by the way, because this apply should not be using a one that's coming from, that is actually using generics. So it's probably something that we can optimize. Okay, let's retry with the profiler again. take a snapshot and then let's navigate a bit. Clickety click. Now we should not see, oh, we should see both. We should see both page 1 and page 2. Well, actually, yeah, if the code is behaving the same, we should be seeing both. So let's try to figure this one out. So do we have page 1? Okay, so we do have page 1 still there. Page 2. Page 2 is there as well. Okay. So now this means that for some reason, this is doing some capture. Which is not supposed to happen at all. Okay, let's try it again to make sure that we're not having some fluke with the profiler. Okay. Let's search for page 1. Oh, page 1's leaking now. Okay, so maybe there's something that I missed somewhere. So page 1, page 2. Page 1 is still leaking. Okay, so see, sometimes you'll have to test multiple times to make sure that we're not missing something. So doing this still makes it leak. So maybe I looked at the wrong place. So page 2 is using this model, this version, and this one's using something else. Okay, so that means that we're looking at something the wrong way. Okay, so this one, so we have view models, and those view models don't have anything in it. So I don't see why we would be something related to attaching anything here. It's not supposed to be there. Because if we take a look at the way page 1 is hooked onto, let's say maybe not this one. Let's say the view model is held onto by dependency object store. There's a loop here. Loops are not supposed to happen. Okay, so that one, routed event handler. We have page stack entry. Okay, that's supposed to be holding a reference to that one, which is expected. We have an event handler with a cycle with bindings, which is good. Default value provider. Default value provider. So that one is interesting. But there's a cycle. It's not supposed to be having any kind of impact. Yeah, that could be a techno-gig. It could be that the generated code was not updated, but I was taking a look at the code, so it's not supposed to happen, but that could happen. It could be a preview 5 something that may happen, but that's what's for sure is that the generated code, well, actually, just adding a data context is doing something to prevent the view from being collected, which is not good. So there's definitely something that's happening there. So what's weird a bit is that we don't have the same number of pages and view models that are staying here. They're not staying alive in the same at the same rate. So maybe there's something different that we're not seeing here. So we have the dependency object store. I wonder if it's just a matter of garbage collector, because it's supposed to be running, fast enough, but maybe because there's a loop somewhere, but it doesn't run as fast. So it may be, yeah, we can still see the page one here. Does run reference here. Here there's a cycle, so it's not something that causes some trouble. Cycle as well. Yeah, the cycle there is going to be a bit complicated to get. So I wonder, because adding something to the data context is not supposed to be doing anything. So there's something very, very wrong in the way we're looking at this. So let me try again. So you maybe let's try to rebuild completely. Maybe there's something wrong with the generation. Let's redo it again with that code and see if there's the same difference that we saw before. So because it's really odd. Taking a snapshot. Doing it again. Yeah. Yeah, the GC should be visible, right? So maybe we can, I should be adding a GC explicitly, so we're making sure that we're actually doing the right thing here. And the GC is not running because there's no collection there. I was assuming that taking a snapshot sometimes could do this, but it doesn't look like it does. So we're not pressing the memory enough, so for the GC to be happening. Okay, so it's still leaking, but because there's no GC, it doesn't show anything. So let's add a GC on the main page. Gonna do the full suite. No, it's very specialized. So wait for pending finalizers, and actually, to be doing it the other way. For now, that should do. Let's see if that changes anything. So we're gonna do just a collect just before we're doing the. Oh, shoot. That's not going to help that much. If I put the buttons on top of each other, it's not going to do anything. So let's try again. So let's do a GC for now. Okay, so it went down. That's good. Now let's navigate. Ha. Yeah, making it difficult to navigate. So let's move. Let's change the design a bit. I'm going to use my extreme design skills. Let's put everything at the top. Yeah, let's do stack panel. Let's do stack panel for everything. And same for page 2. Okay, so that's better for navigating. Okay, so I'm doing page 1, 2, main. Let's do GC and snapshot again. So that's interesting because I definitely did a GC and it's not showing up here. So it may still run, but we don't see it. That could be a bug. That could be a bug in the profiler because it's supposed to be showing up. So maybe it was running before, but not consistently enough so we could see it. Okay, so we have the page 1 view model that's leaking a bit, but not the page 1 page. So that one's not leaking. As for page 2 is not leaking as well. So that's not really an actual problem of the memory just going up. Now, what's interesting is that this one is actually moving up. So that means that we're somehow keeping track of this one somewhere. So let's go see where that one's going up. That one's going to. So the pages it still is leaking, but it's probably because I created instances before I created the first one. So let's do it again because the count is off now. Okay, GC. Okay, let's navigate again. I'm just going to do page 1, page 2. Okay, so now we can do in GC multiple times. Doesn't seem to be moving much. Now we have our second snapshot, and then we can do comparisons to see if there's something that still moves up. So we can definitely see that it moves up with many more objects. So the page 1 view model is actually going up. The page 1 is just 1, so that's expected because we have the navigation page entry. So there's always going to be one that stays there. Now the fact that the page 1 view model stays up, that is not supposed to happen. So that would mean that we're having somewhere something that causes the page to leak. The problem is that we're looking at the last one, so maybe that's not the right one. So, let's see what we have here. So still on the same page. So the problem is that we only have one instance. So I wonder, in previous builds of this one, we were able to see individual instances of the object types. Now, I don't know if we're able to see individual instances. That would be fun. That would be nice if you were able to. So I clicked view references, but I don't know what this one is going to be doing. Yeah, it's not working well. It looks like it broke Visual Studio. Tries to do something, but it's not working well. Oh, it crashed. Okay, so yep, definitely a crash. So don't do it at home. Definitely not working. Okay, let's launch another one. So we know that the pages are released properly. So that's not a leak of the page. That would be a leak of the inner workings of the dependency object for some reason. So maybe we're doing something wrong here. So I don't think I have. Well, let's do it. Let's do in one more. So page 1 and 2 were good. So we're just going to stay on page 1 and 2 for now. And that'll be enough. Failed to build. Ah, right. I'm not on the right project. So we have GC, snapshot again. Then we're going to do page 1, 2 many times. That will be easier. Then main, then GC. So I'm saying previously we were able to see individual instances, but maybe I'm mixing it up with the other one. So maybe it's because I'm at the heap diff size. Let's take a look at individual objects. Maybe there's a way to I would see references, but you don't see individual instances. Ah, that's too bad. Oh, there's view instances here. Okay, so maybe it's just okay. Maybe it's because it's just my code or collapsed. Why can't I see view instances? Okay. So that's the problem with disabled menus like this, is that you can't see you can see why it's disabled. So that would have been helpful. Okay, so the only thing that we can do is just do one and then take a look at what we're left with. Okay, so we're going to go to page, so collect, take a snapshot, page 1, page 2, then we go to page 1, to main, and then GC. And we're going to take a look at what stays there just for page 2, because page 1 is still going to be there because of the fact that in the frame we're still keeping, for the forward stack, we're keeping the previous page so that you can actually go back to that page. So that's why there's still one active instance there. Definitely not working. Ah, okay, so let's see. Page 2. So we have one instance of page 2. Okay. One instance of page view model. That's not what I was looking for, because the fact that we have still one, or maybe oh, filter doesn't work anymore. Ah, because it resets. Okay. So it really is a +1. So we have a routed event handler here with a cycle, so that's not that one. We have the mutable list of page 2. Property change callbacks. We have a lazy input recognizer, not useful. That one I find interesting. This is pretty recent in terms of implementation in Uno. And I wonder if that one is actually not something that it would be. That would be static. So if it's static, that could cause something to leak. Let's go find this one out. So we have a default value provider. In the binder. And this is done by register default value provider. The interesting thing is that it's closing on this instance. So that would mean that for some reason it's providing multiple values of the same thing. So it's not supposed to be happening that way. So the properties here, no, it's not properties. Let's go back again. So it's a default value provider. Okay, so let's look for those instances. So we have an array of default value providers. So it's done in this. It's a field and it's not static. Okay, so if it's not static, that should not cause any trouble unless we're doing it somewhere else, but we would have detected something along those lines. So that's not static. So that could not be something that makes this leak. Okay, so that's not the problem. Okay, bindings is a cycle as well. And we still have the page stack entry, so it's not going to be useful. So we still have the instance because we're navigating to that page. So what we could do is clear out the stack completely so it doesn't stay there. So from the main page, we're going to do to page 3, so that it completely removes the page 1 and 2 from the stack. Page 3. Okay, so that's GC snapshot, and then we're going to go to page 1, then page 2, go back to main, to page 3 to clear. There's no button. Haha. Okay, so I don't have any go back, so I need a go back button. Go back. Let's add a go back method as well. And that would be frame dot go back. Okay, so for GC, taking a snapshot, and then page 1, 2, 1 to main. I'm gonna go to page 3, then go back, then force a GC again, and take a snapshot. So what do we have now? I'm not taking guesses because for now, most of the guesses that I've done were wrong. So still leaking, but we'll see if we have page 2. So page 2 view model is still here, but nothing of the rest. So page 1 and page 2 should not be there. Okay, so they leak the same way. That is good. So let's go for page 2 first. So where is it coming from? So property details collection is leaking. Okay, so it's leaking from the fact that it's inherited, it looks. So we have something that's not happening correctly here. We're definitely not disposing something properly. That looks like a regression. It's not something that was there before. Because setting the data context at the top like this should not force it to leak that way. So we have the inherited dependency objects. We have a cycle here. Oh, visual state group. That is a lot of instances. We have a leak here. No, we have a cycle here. We also have a cycle here. So if it's a cycle, that means that it should be collectible. Okay, so we have cycles pretty much everywhere. So that means that we're doing something pretty bad. Oh, template pooling. There it is. So that's the template pooling. Okay, so now we have something. Now we do have something. So one of the reasons that may happen is because we're pooling something with some data context that's been set explicitly, and for which that's one interesting thing. So the template pooling is done in such a way that we're going to be pushing instances to something that creates instances that avoids creating many instances that avoids creating many instances from a page, for instance, and then when you go back to, let's say, a button or a page or something like that, then it will avoid recreating the instance of the template. It allows you to go really fast in creating objects because when you've created an XAML page and you just build the content there, that will work pretty well. But it has some drawbacks, and that may be one of those. So let's try to disable this for now and see if that actually works. And it looks like it could be, but it probably hides another bug. So we're going to take a look at that. So we have so it's called the framework template pool. Oops. There it is, framework template pool, and there's is pooling enable, and you put it to false, and that's going to give an idea of what we can expect. So we have a lot of things here. Let's remove all those. We don't need them. So what happens is that then when you navigate to a page and then you set data context at the top, then the data context will flow through to all the controls below. And it may be we may be looking at something where if the top level control has been discarded and was the origin of the inheritance, it should remove itself from the children. That's not it looks like it's not the case. So that means that every instance that keeps the information somewhere below is going to be having some trouble releasing the target objects. So that's actually not a leak. because of the data context, but it's a leak because of the fact, well, it's being pulled because of the fact that we're going back to the page multiple times. So let's validate this. So we do this many times. Oh, we're going to take a snapshot. So let's start again. Let's start again. It's a new snapshot. We navigate to page 2 many times. Then go back to main, force the GC a little bit. Then page 3 to clean up everything that was there. And then take a snapshot again. Now let's see if we have increases in memory usage. And I would guess that will not be the case. Well, not that much. So do we have page 1? We have one page 1, which is most likely okay because it's just the page 1 that we went to. And we only have one page 2. So that's not the 20 or something that I clicked when going through it. So that really shows the fact that there should be no leak there. There's no leak now because of the fact that the pooling is disabled. Now that's a problem because that means that we have an issue in the dependency property inheritance, where object that inherits from their parent should not be keeping a strong reference to the value that they're being given, and that's what they're doing. So that's a problem. So we can try to validate something else then. Let's see if we're in page 2 and we're going to be doing something with the finalizer. And in there we do, so page 2 is assigned that way, but we can certainly do something like this. So technically this should not be done because the fact that the page 2 is going to be called out of the UI thread, so that's not good. But for now, let's see what happens if we try to do this, if we're actually getting the data context being released properly. Or let's do it properly and avoid some race conditions. It's going to be I wonder. That issue is still not gone away. So if you change the active project here, then you try to change to something else, then it goes back to the other one. So that's pretty annoying. So let's remove all of those, unload those, and then go back to the page, then UWP. Okay, so we're there yet. And we were in page 2. Oh, it's still doing the same thing. That's annoying. UWP. Okay, that's better. So we want something like this, and then so why do I call them the dispatchers? Because this is called, actually we can take a look at that. When you're in the finalizer, it's the finalizer thread that actually raises this. So when you're manipulating anything that comes from any API from a dependency object, so and up, so grids, anything from grids, dependency object, framework element, UI element, and things like that, that is likely to fail, but in a bad way. So you need to be going through the dispatcher first. There still may be dragons there. We're going to take a look at what that does. So let's run it. You'll see what I mean by that. I probably missed something. Yep, there. Build. Yes, it builds. Okay. So if I run the app again, you'll see that when I go back to page 2 and I collect, you're going to see that the thread that happens there is going to be the dispatcher thread and not the other one. So let's go to page 1, without the breakpoint. And that one either. Page 2, 1, main, and GC. So we may end up going into the GC if that doesn't leak. But maybe it's leaking, so we're not getting anything. Yeah, and so there's something below. So we may not be able to track that because in the underlying things for the way it works, we are overriding this by using a GC suppress finalize, so it may not be called. So actually it actually won't work. So let's use something else then. Let's use unloaded instead. And then in there, we don't need to do run async. There. Okay, so now we should be getting the unloaded being called when we actually unloaded. Page 2. Now we get unloaded correctly. Okay, so that's good. So now we're going to be able to test with the provider that page 2 is not leaking, but page 1 should be leaking now. So let's try again. Page 1, 2. Okay. And just taking a snapshot, we don't need to do diff this time. Actually, let's do it again, just in case. And we can terminate the app now. The memory went down, but that's good. That's expected. Would be at least between those two. So now we search for page 2. We have only one page, which is good. And page 1, we have many view models of page 1 view model, but not page 2 view model. The page 2 view model, we only have one, and that's because the page here is staying active, which is okay. So now what we've seen is there's really an issue, is that when you set data context that way, then if you don't unset it, it will leak through the controls that are being pooled using the template pooling. So it's not a big deal in terms of if you're running a larger application where eventually the controls are going to be removed. So if we take a look at the implementation for the template pooling, you'll be able to see that there's a scavenger that runs, and the scavenger runs every 30 seconds on the idle dispatcher. And if the instances have not been used in between the time to live, which is 1 minute, then the memory is going to be released. So that means that all the templates that have been created and templates that have been created and not reused are going to be released. So that's going to be something that makes it easier for this to work. Now, this means that we're still having an issue where the other controls that have been created are not being released, and that's something that we're going to be taking a look maybe next week, or if I haven't fixed it in between. So I hope you had a good time, and that you learned a few things or two about profiling, and I will give you a bit of insights into what we're doing inside of Uno. So until next week, happy coding, and don't forget to give me a follow. See you next week. Bye-bye.